개발자 22,000명의 실제 작업 기록 2년치를 분석한 리포트가 올해 나왔어요. 처리량은 올라갔습니다. 그런데 버그하고 장애하고 재작업이 더 빠르게 올라갔어요. 개발자당 버그가 54% 늘었고 리뷰 없이 그냥 머지되는 PR이 31% 늘었습니다. 에이전트한테 맡기기 시작하면서 PR이 쏟아지잖아요. 그럼 이 질문이 생기죠. 이걸 다 읽어야 하나? 어차피 테스트는 통과했는데. 이 질문에 정면으로 답한 발표가 이번 달 AI 엔지니어 무대에 올라왔습니다. 영상 중간중간 발표자 클립이 들어갑니다. 한국어 자막 같이 띄울게요. 발표자는 코드 리뷰를 3개월 동안 실제로 없애봤고 다시 되돌린 사람이에요.
So we're all racing to put AI coding into production. And there's been lots been said about loop engineering. And we should probably write more loops. And yeah, I don't know, I guess we're doing loops now. StrongDM built a lights-off software factory where nobody even reads the code. And the prevailing narrative is we should just spend more tokens. You are the bottleneck. The models are good enough. Code is free. Just ship more stuff. But at the same time, we are starting to see the cracks. Our friend Mario at AI Engineer Europe begged us to slow down because companies that should not be having outages because of coding agents are having outages due to coding agent mishaps. Code bases are falling apart faster than they ever have before. And our friends at Pharos AI actually even did a report since we all picked up all these AI coding tools in January, maybe February. Pull request, code review quality is way down. We're having more comments, longer comments, and tons of PRs being merged without any review at all. Incidents are way up, bugs per developer are way up, and many people will tell you that you're holding it wrong. That's the only reason. You're not. Well, maybe you are, but that's not the point. I've spoken a lot about how to hold it better when it comes to working with AI, probably 1 million views on YouTube at this point across a bunch of different talks. And the basic thing is, like, as engineers, we've been told that if token maxing isn't working, then it's a skill issue. You just need to spend more tokens. Let go of reading the code. That with enough harness engineering, if we maybe sprinkle some magic words, adversarial review on enough of our PR bots, that we can get the best of both worlds. 10 to 100x faster, high quality, and nobody has to do that thing we all hate called code review. I'm here to convince you today that this is in fact not a skill issue, that no amount of harness engineering or loops maxing can solve what is fundamentally a model training issue. That's why we say the harness is not enough.
발표는 여기서 소프트웨어 공장이라는 말을 꺼냅니다. 1968년 나토 학회에서 정의된 용어인데 2022년 버전은 이렇게 생겼어요. 사람이 만들고 PR 올리고 사람이 리뷰하고 프로덕션에 나가고 유저가 불평하면 다시 돌아오는 꼴이요. 여기서 딱 한 칸이 바뀝니다. 사람이 만든다가 에이전트가 만든다로요. 만드는데 걸리던 며칠이 몇 분이 되는데 리뷰는 그대로 며칠이에요. 그래서 리뷰도 에이전트한테 넘기고 회기 테스트도 넘기고 장애도 유저 요청도 전부 공장으로 밀어넣습니다. 그러고 나면 마지막 한 칸이 남아요.
And now your only job is how much things can you stuff into the queue of stuff to do, and how fast can you review and test the changes? Which brings us, of course, to, I'm sure you know, the lights-off software factory, where basically Dan Shapiro coined this is we no longer read the code. We say, you know what, this is going great. That code review thing, no thanks. We're just not going to do that anymore. And we invest into all these other parts of the system. Your testing, your monitoring, your rollout, everything else. We just write more code and build those systems better. And now our job really is just how much stuff can we ask the agent to build? I am going to posit that this does not work. And this is why software factories fail. As an aside, what I'm going to say has nothing to do with vibe coding. So Addy had this great post. I'm just going to literally take his quote verbatim. A developer vibe coding a side project 12 people will ever run. And a team keeping a 10-year-old enterprise system alive for another quarter share almost no constraints worth naming. And most of what you hear on the internet is one of these groups of people telling the other group of people how to live their lives. So if you love vibe coding, please go on. At Human Layer, what we care about is how do we help people solve hard problems in complex code bases. We use the word brownfield a lot, which historically has meant like some 10-year-old Java thing. I actually think agents really start to struggle after maybe 3 to 6 months, especially with the pace at which we can ship now. You can ask me how I know this, and I will tell you that it is because in July 2025, we tried this. We went full lights off, and if you have tried this seriously for a number of months, you probably found at least one issue that the agent couldn't solve. Even with your most advanced prompting, you do research, you do reproductions, you have to go and dig into that code base that you stopped reading 3 months ago to try to figure out what's broken. And in the meantime, your site was down, your users were pissed, and if you were like me, you were probably miserable reading all this slop code that you let slip into your system. And what I want to get to is basically models have a shortcoming. They can't maintain and improve code-based quality over time, not without a decent amount of human steering.
왜 못하는 걸까요? 발표는 여기서 프롬프트 얘기를 안 하고 모델을 어떻게 학습시키는지로 들어갑니다. 출발점은 클로드 코드예요. 공개 1년 만에 연 환산 매출이 35억 달러 근처까지 갔거든요. 근데 그 전에도 터미널에서 도는 코딩 도구는 많았어요. 읽고, 쓰고, 고치고, 검색하고 도구 목록이 거의 똑같았습니다. 차이는 하나였어요. 모델을 만드는 곳이 자기가 배포할 도구 환경에 맞춰서 직접 모델을 학습시킨 첫 사례였다는 거. 도구가 특별했던 게 아니라 그 도구를 쓰도록 모델을 훈련시킨 거예요. 그러니까 이 문제의 뿌리는 도구가 아니라 학습 안에 있습니다.
And I'm going to cite a couple slides from my buddy Calvin French Owen, who was a MTS on Codex during the initial launch. But LLMs are just next token predictors. This is a slide from over a year ago where basically as you're doing your agentic loop, context window goes in, next step comes out. And we're going to try to do this. I haven't actually timed this, but we're going to see if we can do coding agent reinforcement learning in 60 seconds. So what we're going to do if we want to train a model to get better at tool calling, better at solving software problems, we're going to give it a problem, and we're going to generate a bunch of traces. Try to solve the problem a bunch of different times. We're going to score them all on correctness and did the test pass and all this stuff. And then we're going to reinforce. We're going to make the bad behavior less likely, and we're going to update the weights to make the good behavior more likely. This one of the classic ones here is SweBench Multilingual. They're about 15-minute tasks. They're from open source repos like Redis, and JQ, and Django, and all this stuff. And they have binary 1 or 0 rewards on did you fix the problem you were trying to fix, and did you do it without breaking anything else? And we look at actually a real problem from one of these benchmarks. This is Fastlane, which is a Ruby project. Basically, there was some issue where we weren't checking for nil, and we have a stack trace blow up because you have a null pointer exception. And in this benchmark, you have a base commit that we're going to check out before the issue was solved by a human in the past. We're going to give it a test patch that says, here's what the behavior should be afterwards. We have a golden patch. Both these are hidden from the model. And so we have the agent go try to solve the problem. We store its patch. We undo all the changes it made to any test files, because I'm sure you've seen models comment out tests just to get things working. And then we're going to apply our golden test patch, and then we're going to run the tests. Old tests and did the new test pass? And if they both pass, then we get the reward. Otherwise, we don't. And so models are trained to get the test to pass. There's no way in this system that we can penalize it for poor program design or for eroding the maintainability of our systems. That's why we get things like this. Try-catches around things that probably don't need a try-catch. Or things like this. I think Vaibhav gave us this example earlier of casting things to other things just so the model can it just wants to get the test to pass. And so if you can't verify the maintainability of the code, it gets way harder to train on this stuff. So you remember this picture. Verifying code quality and maintainability is orders of magnitude harder than the code runs and the test pass. Because the cost function of bad architecture is measured in months and years. If you have a coding episode and then you only find out months later that like, ooh, somebody vibed this a little bit too hard.
여기서 당연히 이런 생각이 드시죠. 그럼 채점표를 더 잘 만들면 되잖아요. 실제로 그 방향으로 가고 있고 발표도 그걸 인정합니다. 근데 거기에 빠져나갈 수 없는 고리가 하나 있어요.
What is the future of evaluating code maintainability? There's a really cool one called SweMarathon from Abundant AI where they do like 400-hour tasks of like clone all of Microsoft Excel, every single feature. And they have some sophisticated reward channel stuff. DeepSwe from DataCurve is also like large tasks on OSS repos that are not actually in the training set because they were never actually built in the real world. And then you have Frontier Code from Cognition, which is multi-PR tasks. They do interesting things like, hey, if the model writes tests that don't fail on the pre-patch code, then it gets penalized. And then we have a judge model that says, okay, did this follow all of our code quality rules? So we're getting better, but I think models judging quality can only go so far. Because if the model knew what good code looks like, it would probably write it in the first place. And review agents and throwing more tokens at the problem, it can raise the floor, but we're still constrained by what we can teach during RL. And so I will posit that for now we're stuck reading the code, but we can still move pretty fast. And of course, there's a world where this is solved in the future, and if you want to just keep YOLOing prompts until you get to GPT-7, you don't have to think about this, by all means, please. But bitter lesson be damned, we've got some problems to solve, so let's engineer our way out of this.
방법은 리뷰를 빠르게 하는 게 아니에요. 읽기 쉬운 PR이 오게 만드는 겁니다. 에이전트한테 일을 넘기기 전에 사람이 먼저 밟는 단계가 4개 있어요.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some sort of product review, understanding what problem we're solving, what's the desired behavior, maybe looking at mock-ups. Here's a product review I was working on yesterday with a mock-up of a new feature. Once we have our product review, we're gonna, and by the way, small stuff still just goes straight to the agent. But once we have the product review, we're gonna also do architecture, system architecture. A lot of people have been doing this for a while, component contracts, data models, constraints. This is an example of a doc that we build to understand how these systems are gonna fit together and what's like the high level picture of it. From there, we do something that I think is really underemphasized in agentic coding these days, which is program design. I think people assume that once you get the architecture right, the model can just cook. But we often look into the types and the method signatures, the program layout and the call stacks. And so here's some examples. I don't think you'll be able to read this one, but this is like the level of abstraction we're at, is how are we actually gonna lay this stuff out and how are these systems gonna interact? Dylan Mulroy from Cloudflare talks a lot about how he's using these call graphs as part of his planning process. I think this is exactly right. And then once we've done the program design, we can do this thing called vertical slices, which is the order of implementation, multi-repo coordination, how are we gonna build this across our entire system, and how are we gonna check it along the way. I've talked a little bit about how models have horizontal plans. I won't go too deep into it. If you want to learn more about this, you can go watch our talk from AI Engineer Miami, a couple shots of a doc like this, going through the tests and the steps in between each phase. The main idea here is 30 minutes over here in pre-planning and alignment can save you hours in review. And so it's actually feasible to still read every line of code. We're gonna skip this part. Basically, the summary here is like, you don't have too many PRs. If you're drowning in PRs, you actually have too many bad PRs. Because a good PR is a joy to review. You're just reading through, like, yep, this is great, this is what we discussed, this is what we talked about. But even if a PR needs 20% rework, which is generous for a lot of AI vibe-coded slop, it's an emotional and intellectual burden on both the reviewer and the submitter. And so if you use model-assisted planning and alignment, your alignment is shorter because you used AI to get all the information at once. Your code review is faster because you aligned up front. And your coding is faster because AI did it. And so now you're actually really moving faster, but you're still reading everything and you're still owning the code.
정리하면 이렇습니다. 하나, 개발자 22,000명 2년치 기록에서 처리량은 올랐는데 버그와 장애와 재작업이 더 빨리 올랐습니다. 둘, 코드 리뷰를 없애는 방식을 직접 3개월 해본 회사가 다시 되돌렸고요. 셋, 원인은 프롬프트가 아니라 학습 방식이에요. 보상이 테스트 통과 여부 하나라서 나쁜 설계에 벌점을 줄 자리가 없습니다. 넷, 심사 모델을 붙여도 한계가 있어요. 좋은 코드를 알았다면 애초에 그렇게 썼을 테니까요. 다섯, 그래서 지금은 읽어야 하고 대신 앞에 30분을 써서 읽을 수 있는 PR이 오게 만듭니다. 여기 하나만 덧붙일게요. 발표에서 프로그램 디자인이 가장 과소평가된 단계라고 했는데 막상 해보면 이게 어디까지인지가 헷갈립니다. 기준은 하나예요. 혼자 뒤집을 수 있는 건 에이전트한테 여럿이 합의해야 하는 건 사람이, 함수하는 틀려도 그 파일 하나만 고치면 되고 테스트가 바로 잡아줘요. 근데 시그니처가 틀리면 그걸 쓰는 곳이 전부 깨집니다. 의존성 방향이 틀리면 한 군데 고치려고 10군데를 건드려야 하고요. 그 경계의 맨 아래가 마침 인터페이스예요. 거기까지는 사람이 적고 함수하는 안 적습니다. 원본 발표는 19분이고 링크는 설명란에 남겨둘게요. 오늘 안 다룬 슬라이드도 많아서 전체를 한번 보시는 걸 추천드립니다. 구독과 좋아요는 영상을 만드는 데 큰 힘이 됩니다. 다음에도 더 좋은 영상으로 돌아오겠습니다.